Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today we're going to be discussing Spider-Man No Way Home.
So I know it's been out for a couple weeks, but we figured we'd hold our review for a little bit because we wanted to dive into some of the spoiler elements of it. Obviously, kind of the ending towards the movie. We won't talk about that for a little bit, so if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out. So yeah, let's just talk about it now.
So there was a lot of anticipation for this film, and there was a lot of speculation what was going to happen. I'm going to say this film succeeds right off the bat. I really enjoyed this movie. I really thought it encompassed like everything Spider-Man related. And I just really am enjoying Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Yeah, I have to say, when I was hearing all the hype about the movie and you had all the press around it and everything that everyone expected the movie to be, like Noelle said, I think it exceeds those expectations. Me, not a huge Spider-Man fan. I do really like Spider-Man, but this movie has everything, in my opinion, for people that love the character and the people that love the character through the history of film.
I guess I really realized the time where I was a Spider-Man fan was when the time when I almost thought we were going to lose Tom Holland in the multiverse MCU universe.
The deal with Sony and Marvel, we didn't know what was going to happen, and then you start to realize, like, I really like Spider-Man. I really like this character. I don't want Marvel to lose any rights to this character. So I do like that they've came together and they've it's made it better than ever. I think the fact that we have this relationship between Sony and Marvel now, at least for the time being, has made this such a great franchise. And obviously people enjoyed it. It did amazing numbers at the box office, and it's definitely earned. I personally think that if it weren't for the pandemic, this movie would have had a shot to beat Endgame for biggest opening weekend. That's how much people were excited about it and how much people wanted to see these characters on screen.
You knew we were going to dive into the multiverse, which I mentioned in this film, and I was very curious how they were going to tie in Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and what was really going to happen, and I really think they succeeded in this film and made it like even more interesting for Marvel.
Yeah, so the quick synopsis of the movie, because obviously most people have already seen it, so just run through it very quickly. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, he wants to get into college and go to the same college as Ned and MJ, and he realizes he can't do that as Spider-Man. You've seen the end of the last film. Jonah Jameson's kind of put that out here that he's Spider-Man. Everybody hates him kind of now. It's like half and half. He can't just live a normal life and no one around him can. So he goes to Doctor Strange to try and fix it, to make people forget that he's Spider-Man. And in the process, he screws up the spell, ends up releasing the multiverse where everyone who knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man comes through. You're getting some villains from all the films throughout the history of Spider-Man. So it's really, really cool. And obviously some more things happen, but that's the gist of everything.
Yeah, I really love that, bringing all the villains in there. Green Goblin obviously stands out as one of the better villains for Spider-Man, and that was fun that he was brought into this version with Tom Holland, and I really liked their whole dynamic and sequence together.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe is just a phenomenal actor. He's just so great in everything he's in. I've obviously liked him a lot from his indie films the past few years, but he was really good as Green Goblin, and he comes back in it, and I think he's even better. Mm-hmm. I think he's evolved as an actor from that first film, and he jumps off the screen. Being able to switch back and forth between this kind of character you feel sorry for, mm-hmm. he kind of is grappling with who he is as a person, and then shifting to this just maniacal, horrible person. Mm-hmm. I think he does a phenomenal job at that.
It was also really cool seeing Doc Ock in this film. He is one of the top villains, I would say, out of all the Spider-Man. I really like Green Goblin as my favorite, but everybody always refers to him as being the best villain for, fighting against Spider-Man because his character's so grounded. It's basically him,
yeah, his relationship with Spider-Man is something that really drives through in the villains in the Spider-Man universe. They all have very personal connections to Peter Parker, and at the end of the day, they kind of are good people beneath mm-hmm. their shell, and that's kind of a theme that runs throughout this movie in particular is he doesn't want to kill them. Like, Spider-Man doesn't want to just cast these guys back to where they came from because they'll die. As you've seen in the films that they were in, they were taken away shortly before their demise. So he's struggling with that morality of him as Spider-Man. And I think that's something that's always been really good in the Spider-Man movies is his moral compass. He mm-hmm. always wants to be the good guy. He doesn't want to kill people. He's like the nice, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So Tom Holland's great as Peter Parker and mm-hmm. Spider-Man. I think that shines through in this movie in particular.
I like Doctor Strange. I liked him when we first saw him in his first movie. But in this one, I felt like his character was a little, lopsided. He was a little more goofy.
Yeah, I don't know. That's always been my issue in particular with the Marvel films, and it's not a big problem, is that it tries to inject comedy constantly, mm-hmm. and it injects it in places where maybe it isn't necessarily necessary. Like, in this movie, it has a kind of a silly premise because it's the way everything happens is just kind of like, it's kind of stupid at the end of the day, but it's interesting. I like the end. I think the end justifies the means of getting where it was.
So the real exciting part in this whole film is that Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield do show up and play as their own Spider-Mans from their films. And that was like just such a cool moment for me.
Yeah, I think those moments where they come through, I mean, it's like chills. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, like I'm not like, I watch a lot of movies and I watch a lot of indie movies and I watch a lot of big blockbuster movies, but there's very few movies that when something happens on screen, I just get like, I physically get excited about the movie. So I think that this movie exceeds in that. I loved Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies. They're one of the first movies that I ever remember going to see in theaters and being just so excited about. I remember going seeing the first one at a midnight screening with my dad when I was like a little kid. So it's just like, that just comes back to you. You see Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, as a millennial person. This is just the best thing ever.
Yeah. It also made me really think about how much I enjoyed Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. He's just so good as Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's funny because I am one of those people that I watch the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I like the first one. It's a good movie. I really don't like the second one. But like, Andrew Garfield is so good as Spider-Man. And I'll admit it, there were people that were holding the torch for him forever, and they're finally getting their day now. People are realizing how good he was as Spider-Man. I'll admit it, I missed it. I missed how good he was. So I hope they bring him back in some capacity, because it definitely feels like in the movie that he is a focal point. He's so good. He creates such a good comedic relief between these somewhat like a very serious Tobey Maguire Spider-Man to kind of a, modern Tom Holland Spider-Man, to having this kind of sillier guy as like a comedic relief in the middle. I think he's great in the movie.
Yes, they all three work so well together, and I just love the energy that's on the screen. It just feels so different for a Marvel film, and it's just a whole new like excitement for these films.
Yeah, and as a fan of these franchises, it's just the banter back and forth is clearly, the movie is built on fan service. And I know a lot of people, that's a criticism for movies. They think, oh, it's just pandering to the fans. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's the people that go and see the movies. Like, as a film critic and a fan, I enjoyed it. I didn't think that it was too heavy-handed like maybe some other movies in the past. I think it worked really well. They had to skirt a line bringing all these things together, and they did it in a way that still was satisfying, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, so I would honestly give this film a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. The runtime is long, but it doesn't feel long. And at the end, it gives you like a good ending. You're kind of questioning what's going to happen with Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Tom Holland. Like, what is his character? Where it's going to go next? And I really like that it's up in the air and we have like nothing to go on.
Yeah, so if I were to review it, I would actually give it a 9.5 out of 10. It exceeded my expectations that were already really high for the film. And I do really enjoy the ending. It's obviously pretty emotional. There's some really emotional parts in this movie.
I cried.
Yeah, I'm going to say, for a Marvel film, I know that there's been a few that hit really hard, in particular Endgame, a couple other ones. This one may have hit the hardest for a Marvel film movie emotionally. Between the deaths that occur on screen, the relationships, and kind of having to get past who he is as Spider-Man. So obviously towards the end of the film, you see that he gives up, being Peter Parker, essentially. Peter Parker's wiped off the face of the earth, and he's just Spider-Man. And I really can't wait to see how they decide to play with this character now, because you see him in like the old costume. He's not going to have the help of the Avengers anymore. I don't know. I'm really excited for the future. This movie made me very excited for the future of Spider-Man and maybe being in the Venom verse, if you will.
This sums up our review of Spider-Man No Way Home. Let us know down in the comments what you thought. How does it rank among like all the Spider-Man movies or all the Marvel movies? What you like about it, what you didn't like about it.
And also, like, give us any, like, theories you have. Obviously, people have tons of theories before this one. What are your theories of where it's going to go? How's it going to play into maybe Venom? There's been a lot of people thinking about what's going to happen with the symbiote. You see at the end that it's kind of integrating into the world. It's going to be there. I don't know. I'm going to like that juxtaposition between Tom Holland Spider-Man and Venom, because they're so different. The tones of that film and this film are so different that I'm excited to see it. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. See you guys next time.
Bye.